Okay, so we have our API ready with authentication and registration, and getting notes with bearer token. We have our user interface for notes ready. Now let's connect them together and actually finalize the project. Okay, so first let's start with authentication. Okay, so whenever we go to the login page, we have that nice looking login form, and when we click on the login button, we need to make request. And when I fill something right now there and I click the login button, it just prints the username and password, and that happens in the login view component. Okay, so let me close everything and let's just go to the login view component right here. And we have here this form, and we need to make request using Axios. Okay, so I'm going to start with easy and then like create separate files and move my code and refactor everything. Okay, so Axios post, and we're going to pass the login endpoint, which is this one. Okay, so and we're going to pass this form. Okay, and yeah, we need to include Axios. We need to import Axios from Axios. Okay, so now let's just simply make request. Okay, something, click login, and the request was made right here, but we see the first error, and this complains about the course policy. Okay, so we cannot access on port 8080 from port 8081, and that's the number one problem, which doesn't generally occur when you test with Postman. Okay. Okay, so let's implement this. So let's go to the user controller, and right here we need to add behaviors. Okay, behaviors, and we need to add course behavior. Okay, this is the only thing what we need. Array. So I'm going to merge its parent behaviors, my bad, parent behaviors into my course behavior. Okay, so I'm going to call my course behavior just course and course filter. Okay, so that's called course filter. And now let's make request once again. Okay, so we don't see course error anymore. We get that unprocessable entity 422. Let's click on this and let's have a look at the response. Okay, password, incorrect username or password. Okay, it doesn't complain that it's no, my bad. I thought I submitted the empty form. So if I submit the empty form, I will get username cannot be blank, password cannot be blank. Okay, if I put something right there, then we get that error, incorrect username or password. Okay, so first step, let's display these errors in the user interface. Okay, so let's go to the login, and we need to take out that data. Okay, so I'm going to use async and await const response equals to await, and I'm going to take the response basically returns okay, let's just write the response. Okay, I just want to show it to you. Okay, fill up, submit, and here's the response. Or where is it? No, we won't get response because it wasn't successfully. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly show this to you. So the response basically has their status and data. Okay. But we need to put this anyway in try catch. Okay, so whenever the request was not successfully done, then we will be inside the catch. Okay, so let me do like this, and right here I'm going to return error.response, and that will be the whole response. Okay, and right here, if it was successfully done, I'm just going to print status and data. I'm going to do like this, it's more handy for me. Okay, click login, and we get right here data, and this is the whole response actually what we are printing right here. Okay, so it has status, it has data which contains errors, and it has also some text and additional headers. So I'm going to take out these data.errors, just like this, and I'm going to assign this into these errors. Okay, these errors equal to response data errors, and let's see result now. So fill up something, click login, and I get here that information: incorrect username or password. So if I just don't fill up anything, I get username cannot be blank, password cannot be blank, which is cool. So now let's handle the correct login. Okay, if I enter Zura 1234, hit the login, I get here status code 200 and the user information: ID, username, and access token. And we need to save that access token in local storage or session storage and use it on every next request. Okay, so for this, now I'm going to create a service. Okay, so I'm going to create a services folder, and right there I'm going to create auth service. Okay, auth service, and it should just return an object which will have login method, and it will do the following, just like this. This must be a sync function, and my PHP Storm complains about this is actually a JS hint, so I'm going to actually disable my JS hint because it doesn't know which JavaScript version I'm using. Okay, so when this happened, actually I want to return success true. Okay, so from this page, okay, so we just call here auth service login, and let's just call this auth. Actually, I'm going to show you one more trick. So if you want auto-completion to work about such kind of objects, you just need to declare auth service equals to object, and you just export default auth service, and then when you start typing auth service, it auto completes and also imports that file for you. Let's call login, let's pass this form right there, and if that was successfully done, let's await this, and let's get here success and errors. Okay, and success will either be true or false. Okay, if success equals to true, then we just need to redirect user to the home page. Okay, so this router push, and we pass there the route name, which is, I guess, home, isn't it? So router index, the name is home. Okay, just lowercase home. However, if it was not successfully done, then these errors equals errors, just like this. And let's implement this. So we get here form data, we make requests. If the status equals 200, we just return an object with success true. If we came into the catch statement, we just return object with success equals to false, and errors equals to response data errors, just like this. Okay, so let's see now. Refresh the page. Let's first type incorrect username and password, and we don't see errors anymore. So what's the reason? Yeah, we need await right here. Asynchronous function, this function is asynchronous, it always returns a promise, so we need await. Okay, let's type something there, click OK, and we get errors. Let's type correct username, password 1234, click login, and we are redirected to the home page. Okay, however, if I refresh my page, I should be redirected to the login page simply because I haven't saved inside local storage my access token. Okay, inside local storage nothing is saved. Okay, and I need to be redirected to the login page, and that should be done using routes before each event. Okay, so the router has before each method function which accepts a callback, and this accepts 3 arguments. Okay, so on which route I want to go, from which route I want to go, and the next callback. Okay, let's accept both, and let's do like this. Let's just call next always, and let's just print to and from. Okay, so here it is. Okay, so this is to, this is from. I want to go to the home page, and yeah, okay, if I just want to go to the login page, clicking just like this, then actually this doesn't work yet. So the thing is that we want to check if we want to go to the home page and I am not authenticated, then I need to go to the login page. Okay, so now it's time that I want to implement is logged in method. Or let me first write if to name equals home. Okay, and I am not authenticated, so I'm going to use for this auth service is logged in not. Okay, so if I want to go to the home page and I am not logged in, then I need to call next, but pass their name login. So go to the login page. Okay, then we can write additional if statement. So if I am actually authenticated and I want to go to the login or registration page, then I need to go to the home page. Okay, else if I am authenticated and I want to go to the login or registration page. Okay, so here we have like several options. Okay, so our rules are we can add actually to our rules meta attribute. Okay, and like auth, for example, equals to true. Okay, and this indicates that this route requires authentication, and we can add that to the home component also. Okay, and then we check if right here my to meta auth equals true and I'm not authenticated, go to the login page. If auth service, if I am actually authenticated and my root doesn't have that meta auth true, then I need to go to the home page. Actually, I can do like this also, but I just want to show to you several possibilities. But for this particular thing, I'm going to do it easily. So I'm going to just write if I am authenticated and I am not going to the home page, if the root name doesn't equal to the home, then I need to go to the home. Okay, otherwise go wherever you want. Okay, so I'm going to implement that is logged in. So I'm actually gonna implement this, but before that, right here I have data. Okay, if the status equals 200, this means that we have been successfully logged in, and I need to take that data access token and save it in the local storage. Okay, actually I will describe here user equals to null, and then this user equals to the whole data. Okay, and actually I will call set user. Okay, set user, call it user, and right here I want to call this set user. We'll pass the data, and this will set the user, and it also save inside the local storage set item access token equals to user access token. Okay, and is logged in methods implementation is the following: return this, not this user, but from local storage, let's take get item access token. Okay, so if the access token exists in the local storage, and I'm going to write double exclamation mark, if it exists in the local storage, then this will return true. If not, this will return false. Okay, so if I refresh the page right now, I should be redirected to the home page. Okay, so local storage doesn't have access token right there, so I should be redirected to the login page. Let's check. To name equals home, and I'm not authenticated. I need to go to the login page, and that should actually work. It doesn't work for some reason. So this is to is logged in. Okay, what's going on? What is the name of my root? Okay, where is it? Name is login. Actually, I should be redirected to the login page, so let's hit debugger right here. Something is going on. Does this actually work? Yes. Here is my mistake. We have lowercase home. We don't want debugger. Okay, so actually when I try to go to the home page, there's no access token and I'm redirected to the login page. Cool. Now if I try to log in, click login button, I'm redirected to the home page, and when I refresh, I stay there. If I try now to go to the login page, I am authenticated and I will be redirected back to the home page. Okay, this is step number 1. Okay, step number 2 is that we need to get the nodes from the API, of course. So let's go to the component nodes, and right here we have node static array. Okay, so we don't want this. Instead, I want to add mounted event, and when this mounted event is called, I want to make request and get the nodes. Okay, so for this, actually I'm going to do the following. So whenever the request is made to the API, I need to pass bearer authentication token, okay, in the headers, so that the server knows who I am. And I need to create a base HTTP client which does this all the time, okay? So actually in the services, I'm going to create HTTP service. And I'm going to copy and paste some code and explain it right now, okay? So we are using Axios create method, which creates an instance of the Axios, and we give here the base endpoint, which will be localhost on port 8080/API. Okay, every request made is made on this URL. The rest thing is like different. Okay, so we are making requests right here. We have auth interceptor. This basically is responsible to put bearer token in the authorization header. Okay, and we call here get token method from auth service, but we don't have that get token method in the auth service. So let's go and implement this. Okay, so I'm going to simply return the access token read from the local storage. Okay, so next thing is that we're using that auth interceptor, and we're also using response auth interceptor. Okay, it's not called auth interceptor, response interceptor, and this is basically responsible. So if the response was successfully returned, we just don't do anything and return. However, if the response returned with status code 401, then we need to redirect user to the login page. Okay, so we can write router push like this, or we can also write router push name equals to login. Okay, and we call promise reject from here, and that's basically all. Okay, so we can also this exports the HTTP client. We can also export default HTTP client. Okay, just like this, and then we need to use that HTTP client. The one thing, I need to fix the path of the router. Okay, now let's go to the nodes controller, and right here I can use HTTP client, call get method, pass there node. Okay, I want to get node, if we pluralize inside URL manager, it would be nodes. Okay, and let's make this a synchronous function. Let's take out status and data, await, and if status is 200, then this nodes equals to data. Okay, so we get the data and set it to the nodes, and let's make these nodes as an empty array, and let's test this. Okay, so let's reload the page, and we have here course problem. Okay, so this course problem happens because in the NoteController we don't have that course filter. Okay, so let's go to the NoteController, and we have here authenticator, and we need course filter. Okay, so let's add behaviors course equals to an array where class corresponds to course. But this won't work, and simply because the authenticator behavior is added before course. Okay, so whenever the browser makes options request, it must pass course filter, but first it is checked against the authenticator filter, and this immediately rejects because of course. Okay, so if we reload the page, it doesn't actually work. So we have here two solutions. One solution is to make this authenticator filter to work on every action except options. Okay, so authenticator to work on every action except options action, just like this. Okay, and then we add course filter, and that should work, and we get now two empty nodes. The second solution is we need to unset the authenticator, first set the course filter, and then set the authenticator back. Okay, so this is easy solution, so I'm gonna leave this right there. So actually in the code which I have already put on the GitHub, you'll find both solutions, just one will be commented out. Okay, so you can check out the second solution right there. So I'm gonna just leave it as it is right now, but remember, so you have to unset using unset function the authenticator. First set the course filter, then add auth methods. You don't want that line anymore, and then set the authenticator filter back. Again, you can check out the GitHub code. Okay, so that works, and we have now nodes. When we click on the new node button, however, we want to create node. Okay, so let's go to the nodes component, and here we have that add node. Okay, right there we want to call the similar request, but in this case it must be post request, and we just pass empty object. Okay, so this must be a synchronous function. We get the request. If the status equals 201, this means that the record was successfully created. Inside nodes we can unshift the whole data. Okay, so let's put the whole data right there. Okay, that's cool. Node creation should also work. Let's reload and click add node, and let's reload the page, and now we have 3 nodes. Okay, and let's also implement delete node. Okay, make request. This must be a synchronous function. Here we need to pass delete request, and we need to pass here node ID. Okay, so let's change this into nodes.id. Okay, and yeah, if the status in this case is 204, then we need to remove this from the array. Okay, so we need to find that particular node from the array and delete it. Okay, reload the page, delete, refresh, and we have only 2. Okay, so deleting also works fine. We have add nodes, and we need node update, of course. So let's put this code right here. A synchronous function. The method will be put. We pass the whole node. Just we also need to pass the node ID right here, the URL node ID. And if the status is 200, this means that it was successfully updated. We can put this inside the notes. Actually, it will be already there. Okay, so we just don't do anything. Okay, let's see. So I put something in the title and refresh the page, and it's there. I put something in the description, we refresh the page, it's lost. And that's simply because we are making requests on blur. Okay, so if I type something there and if I refresh the page, it will be lost. However, if I cause the blur event, it will be there when I refresh the page. Okay, so one important thing after all. So we have the same nodes for every user. Okay, so I created second user, which is called Zura2, I think. If we have a look right here, Zura2. So if I log in with the Zura2, it will see the same nodes, which is wrong. Let's log out. The logout doesn't work, by the way. So let's go to the navbar and find the logout place. Right here, we need to call auth services logout, which doesn't exist, by the way. So let's go to the auth service and implement logout right there. This will do the following. From local storage, this will remove item access token, and also it will redirect. Okay, so router push, the name is login, just like this. Okay, so when I click the logout button, I'm redirected to the login page, and access token doesn't exist in the local storage anymore. So let me try to using user 0212334. Okay, and I'm logged in and I see the same nodes, which is actually a bug of the API. Okay, so let's implement this. Let's go to the NoteController, and right there in the active controller we have here index action, and that's responsible for making for select all the nodes. Okay, and each actions right here has prepare data providers. Okay, if we just follow that index action, we see prepare data providers, and this must return the data provider. And the index actions that prepare data provider actually has much more code right there than we actually need. Okay, so a lot of code. It also considers some filtering and so on. And if you want to reserve all this code, you have to copy this code and implement in the NoteController. Or I don't want that much code and I'm going to do it easily. So let's first override actions. So here we have actions. Okay, then we just return actions, but before this, inside the actions for index, we call for prepare data provider, we need to call this prepare data provider. Okay, so this prepare data provider function must be declared right here. Okay, action prepare data provider, not action, I'm sorry, prepare data provider, and this must return the active data provider. Okay, so new, not active, but in general it must return data provider, but I'm going to return active data provider, and this needs query parameter, query option, and this will be my own query. Okay, so I'm going to make select from this module class, which is the node resource. So I'm going to make request, make a query from node resource, find, and I'm going to add filter. Okay, and where created by corresponds to current user. Okay, so the current user will be app identity, excuse me, user identity. This will be the, my bad, this will be the whole user, current user. If we just want to take the ID, we can take just like this. Okay, and this makes a query in the notes table based on that field created by. Okay, and now I'm gonna remember you that we once created node query. Okay, so this node query is used when we call find. Okay, if I call find on the node class, it uses that node query. Okay, so inside the node query, I'm going to write a function by user, for example, and we get ID. Okay, and this will return this, and where created. Actually, I'm gonna copy that where. Okay, and here I'm going to call just by user and pass there e up user ID. Okay, and right in the query we get that ID and we pass right there. Okay, cool. So this complains about two things, I think. First is that the language level doesn't support that, which is set into my PHP storm. So I'm going to set this into this. And then it complains that the find not found in string. So I'm actually going to, this is just warning, so I don't care about this. Let's leave it. However, if we now go to the browser and reload the page, we don't see any notes for user Zura2. Okay, this is the current user. By the way, we don't see also a username right here, where we see only welcome. But there are no notes for user Zura2. Let's try to log in with Zura. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I get 2 notes for me. That's awesome. So let's try again with Zura2. And just create one note. Zura2 note, test description. Awesome. Now let's reload the page and we see that note. Okay, I think the only thing what we need to do is now to display that welcome message. Okay, so we once created in the auth service that user property, okay, which is set when user is successfully logged in. But this user field is not populated when we reload the page. Okay, it is not populated simply because when we reload the page we don't get the current user information. Okay, so if we switch to the XHR, the only information we get from the API is note. So I generally make requests to the API, buy access token, get the user information, and then display it wherever I want. Okay, so let's do this. So I'm gonna go to the user controller in the back, okay, and implement that function. Okay, so action get user data, or just let's call it get data. Okay, and we need to take the current user data. Actually, I'm going to copy this code and explain this to save some time. Okay, here's my code. Let's import that classes. And here it is. So we first get the headers and we expect there to be authorization header. Okay, if there is no authorization header, we throw new exception unauthorized. Okay, then when we get that authorization header, we explode it with space and take the last part, which will be actual access token. Then we call find identity by access token a function from user resource, which tries to find the user. If the user was not found, we throw again an authorized HTTP exception. Otherwise, we return user. Pretty simple. Now we need to call that in the auth service. Okay, let's go to the auth service. Okay, one more thing. Here we are using Axios, but it will be good if we use HTTP client always. Okay, so it saves us some code. Okay, we don't want that prefix anymore. Okay, just like this. And okay, so let's create now function get current user right here, which will make a request to the API user get dash data. It won't pass any information because that HTTP client by itself will pass that authorization header. And let's take out the result, status, and the data, and if status is 200, then we get the data, this user equals data, and save it in the user property. Okay, so and finally we just need to return that user also. Okay, so this dot user, and we can actually do like this. So whenever we call the this get current user, we check first if this user doesn't exist. Okay, if it's null, then we make all these things set the user, otherwise we will just return the user. Okay, now we need to use that get current user. So I'm going to open now default layout. Okay, here we have navbar and user, and right there on its like before mount, for example, I want to use that auth service get current user. Okay, const user equals to await this, and not const user but this user actually. Okay, so when this default layout is about to be open, we are going to make a request, get the current user information, and then we are passing down that user information in the navbar, so the username must be displayed. And here we see welcome Zora2. So if I reload the page, I make two requests, one to get the user data, second one to get the notes. Okay, so if I log out and reload the page, none of the requests were made because we are on the login page. However, if I go to the home page, also no request is made because access token doesn't exist, and we are immediately redirected to the login page. Okay, so that's cool. So we have successfully created Notes application with authorization, registration. My bad, I totally forget. We have not implemented registration. Funny. Okay, let's go to the registration page and quickly implement that one also. Okay, in the router, on before route, we are logging something, so we don't want that. Okay, and let's implement the registration. Okay, so first go to the auth service and copy that login method, call it register, user register. If the status code is 200, I think we are returning it with 200. Then we get the user, set user, we return success true. We're basically doing everything similar except the different endpoint. Okay, now let's go to the registration, and here we should have register method. Okay, so let's create methods, register, auth service, register, and we pass this form data, or just this form. Okay, so this must be a synchronous function. We expect to get status and data. However, we don't actually care anything about the data. No, we actually get success and errors, my bad. So we get success and errors, and we're doing the same thing as we did for the login. Okay, so if success true, then we can redirect user to the home page. We can also do we also save the token? Yeah, we also save the token in the local storage, and if not, then we show the errors. Okay, so let's come to the home page and create, let's just submit the form. And what just happened? So we have some course issues right there. API user register. Okay, so I thought we fixed the course issues for user controller. Okay, so let's go to the user controller and see what's going on. How is it called? Excuse, so my bad. The function actually is called sign up, not the register. Okay, so let's come here and call it sign up. Okay, just like this. And let's make request once again. And we get that unprocessable entity, which returns errors, but we don't display these errors for some reason. Okay, so what's going on? So we are missing a wait right here. Okay, click register and we get these errors. Let's type there Zura with 1234, 1234, hit the register button, and I now get the username has already been token. Let's create Zura3, click register, and we are redirected to the home page, and I don't have obviously any notes. Okay, so click new note, Zura3 note, some description, and reload the page, and it stays there. Deleting works also fine. Okay, so we have also implemented registration login, and we have actually implemented the whole application, whole Notes application.